My name is Miles Hartley. I'm a 44-year-old commercial architect in Savannah, Georgia. I was sitting in my home office when I opened the email from my wife, or the woman who had been my wife for 12 years. The subject line was blank. No greeting. No hi. No Miles. Just 6 words that told me everything. I've moved your inheritance into my account. And then, below it, a photo. Grainy, blurry, but unmistakable. Her. On a balcony somewhere warm, wine glass in hand. Sunset bleeding across the background like a fire fading into the sea. Next to her, a man I didn't recognize. Beard, button-down shirt. Hand casually resting on her lower back. She was smiling. Not the smile I used to get when we were walking through garden centers or watching renovation shows at midnight. No, this one was different, like she was finally free. I closed the laptop, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stared out at the backyard we'd redesigned together 3 summers ago. The stone path, the hydrangeas, the pergola I'd built on a long weekend. All of it felt like a set piece now, a house staged for someone else's life. $587,000. That's what she tried to take. The money my Aunt Elaine left me when she passed. A woman who raised me after I lost my parents in a wreck at 14. Who worked double shifts in a trauma ward to put me through architecture school. Who left me everything with 1 sentence in her will. Build something that lasts. Kendra knew how much that inheritance meant to me. She also knew it was the one thing in my life she hadn't helped create. There were no follow-up messages, no missed calls, no explanations, just that email, like it was a formality, like she thought I'd be too shocked to react. But what Kendra didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this day for months, because I'd already felt it slipping. Her smile, her tone, the way she started saying I instead of we. We met 15 years ago at a design expo in Charlotte. She was there pitching her new wellness startup. I was 5 years into a career designing medical offices and educational spaces. She needed someone to help her plan her first retail store. I offered ideas over dinner. She offered something more. We married within 3 years, settled in Savannah, bought the Craftsman home on Victory Drive with the wraparound porch she swore she'd always dreamed of. No kids, her decision. The business is my baby, she said once, and I understood. My buildings were mine. For a while, things worked. We traveled, threw garden parties, looked good on Instagram. But then came the yoga retreats. First 2 days, then 4, then full weeks. The calls got shorter. Her phone stayed face down. Passwords started changing. And when I asked her about anything, her studio, her travel, her tone, she'd just smile and say I was imagining things. 3 months ago, she asked a peculiar question over breakfast. What account is the inheritance money in, just in case something ever happens to you? I told her I'd think about consolidating things, but I already had, just not in the way she thought. The money was never where she thought it was. I'd worked with my aunt's attorney, Rita Wallace, to create an irrevocable trust. It protected the funds from any claim or commingling, including within a marriage. What Kendra didn't know is that the trust wasn't just protected, it was watched. Every login attempt, every access request, every attempt to export a document. Logged, flagged, and traceable. 3 weeks before that email arrived, I got a call from Jerry, my financial advisor. Hey Miles, we had some odd attempts to access one of your accounts. Which one? The trust. But whoever it was didn't have the right credentials. Tried 3 times. Used your birthday, then your old work ID. He paused. We flagged it, just in case. I thanked him. Hung up. Then booked an appointment with Rita the next day. At her office in Atlanta, I laid out everything. No accusations, just facts. Odd questions. changed behaviors, access attempts. Rita listened calmly. When I was finished, she said only this: "Your aunt was wise to separate the past from the present. The trust is airtight. But if someone attempted to breach it," her eyes sharpened, "that's financial fraud, felony level, even if unsuccessful." I nodded. "Let's document everything," I said, "and turn on monitoring." The day Kendra left for her retreat, she hugged me in the driveway, lightly, distant. Her bag was packed with a few more clothes than usual. "I might extend this one," she said. "Really dive into the practice." I helped her load the car, waved as she drove off, then walked straight back inside and opened our shared cloud folder, the one we used for house projects, taxes, and renovation ideas. There, hidden in a subfolder labeled Home 2024, were screenshots of my account dashboards, exported statements, notes about transfer limits, a photo of a whiteboard with figures drawn in dry erase marker. $587,000 minus 20% equals $469,600 transfer fee explanation. She'd been planning this for a while. That night, I didn't call her. I didn't rage. I didn't spiral. I simply poured a glass of wine, opened a blank page in my notebook, and wrote one sentence at the top. "Leverage comes from knowing more than the other person thinks you do." And then I got to work. I waited exactly 24 hours before replying to her email. 6 words. "Thanks for letting me know." No emotion, no anger, just signal. A warning shot disguised as politeness. I sent it at 11:22 p.m., the same time she'd sent hers. Let her sit with that symmetry. Let her feel the space between those lines. The next morning, I began the process. I forwarded her message, along with the attachment, to Rita Wallace, the trust attorney, and Jerry, my financial advisor. I didn't need to explain. The email did the work for me. Rita's reply was short, documented, monitoring active, trust still secure. Jerry's came next. "Thanks for forwarding. We'll tighten flags on any further attempts." By noon, I was sitting in the office of Thomas Webb, the divorce attorney Rita had recommended nearly a year ago when I first expressed concerns about financial conversations in my marriage starting to turn strange. Thomas was younger than me, but he had the expression of a man who'd seen every form of marital betrayal twice and learned to hide his surprise. He took one look at the email and said, "You want to move fast?" "I want clean," I said, "but I want clarity first." He nodded. Then Rita joined the meeting via video call. "The attempted transfer creates a paper trail," Thomas said, flipping through the documents I'd provided. "Add to that the screenshots you found, and her email. That's multiple points of intent and action. And since the trust is off limits, she attempted to access an asset she had no legal claim to, then admitted it in writing." Rita added, "And don't forget, Georgia doesn't treat inheritance as marital property when it's maintained separately. The trust protects you. What she's done could be used to establish financial misconduct." Thomas looked up. "We'll file tomorrow." I signed the petition by 4:30 p.m. that day, not with bitterness, but with precision. Kendra texted at 6:12 p.m. "Did you get my email?" I waited an hour, then replied, "Yes." 2 minutes later, "That's all you have to say?" I didn't respond. Instead, I sat back and watched as the silence did the talking. The next morning, my phone rang, her name on the screen. I answered. No hello. No how are you. No acknowledgement of the words she'd written less than 48 hours before. Just, "You're being childish." My voice stayed neutral. Am I? This doesn't have to be difficult. I agree, I said. Let's be adults about this. The money is already moved, she said quickly. Fighting it will just burn it all in legal fees. There it was, the bluff. I asked, "Where are you staying?" "What does that matter?" Just curious where home is now. She went quiet. Then, changing the subject, I'm having my lawyer draw up settlement papers. It's better if we keep this clean. Who's your lawyer? David Lawrence. He's already reviewing everything. I wrote the name down. Good. That's helpful. Miles? Are you even listening? You said that already, I replied. I appreciate your concern for keeping this easy. She didn't know what to say next. I gave her an out. I'm doing nothing, just getting used to the idea. She softened. It's for the best. We've been moving in different directions for years. This is cleaner than dragging it out. You're right, I said. Cleaner is better. After we hung up, I called Thomas and gave him Lawrence's name, then sent Kendra one text, taking some time to process. We'll reach out when I'm ready to discuss details. Her response came in under a minute. Don't wait too long. Papers will be ready by Friday. 3 days. Perfect. That evening, Rita called. The trust company's flagged 3 access attempts since yesterday, she said. All 3 were blocked, all logged. IP addresses, login timestamps, each attempt tracked to an access point in Scottsdale, Arizona. Kendra had told me she was going to Sedona. Rita continued. The system also logged suspicious activity from your home network last month, exporting documents, account summaries. Device ID matches her laptop. The trail was writing itself. The next morning, David Lawrence called. His tone was careful, cautious, the voice of a man who sensed he was walking into something too clean to be accidental. Mr. Hartley, I'm representing your wife. She's indicated you're open to a straightforward split. Has she now? She mentioned you understood the situation, that there's no need to escalate. I kept my voice level. Which situation would that be exactly? Well, the division of assets, including, recent inheritance funds. I let the pause breathe. Has she shown you documentation of these funds? She's provided screenshots of account balances, he said, from 3 months ago. And transfer confirmations? She's indicated those are forthcoming. Interesting, I said. Has she mentioned that the inheritance is protected under an irrevocable trust? A longer silence. She mentioned a trust, yes. Well, I said, then I'd suggest you verify the information you've been given before proceeding. Thomas will be in touch. I hung up. Then I drove to Brightstone Bank, where Kendra and I had our joint accounts. Harold, the manager, remembered me, helped us refinance the mortgage 2 years ago. I need a review of recent activity, I told him. He logged in, frowned, then turned the monitor toward me. Transfers. Dozens of them. Small at first, $2,000, $3,500, then $12,000, then $47,000, all from our joint account to an unfamiliar receiving number. The bank? Northern Lakes Credit Union, an institution I'd never used. The total? $178,000 gone over 6 months. By the time I returned to Thomas's office, we had the printouts and a clearer picture. The Northern Lakes account was in Kendra's name only, opened 8 months ago. The address on file? An apartment in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's been building a new life, Thomas observed, while still using mine to pay for it, I added. Then Thomas's assistant knocked. David Lawrence on the line, she said. Thomas answered on speaker. We've received the trust documentation, Lawrence said. His voice was clipped now. My client may have misrepresented some elements of the financial situation. You don't say, Thomas replied. I believe it's in everyone's interest we explore a revised approach. Thomas was quiet a beat. My client has already filed, he said. Financial misconduct. Inheritance is protected. Joint account withdrawals are documented. We'll see you in court. After the call, Thomas looked at me. He'll drop her by the end of the day. No lawyer wants this on their record. And the money she did take? We document it. We include it in the filing. Let her explain it to a judge. But for me? There was still one thing left. Not for court, not for leverage, just for closure. I needed to know who the man was, not to confront him, not to track him down, just to understand the full scope of what I'd missed while trying to build a life with someone who'd already decided to burn it down. The email from Rita came late that night. No small talk, just a subject line that said, "Update." Inside was a full log from the trust company's monitoring system, 3 months worth of data, multiple access attempts, same IP, Scottsdale, Arizona. Each failure logged down to the second. Timestamps, partial login names, device identifiers. Rita's message was brief. All documented. Activity report sent to legal. No action required from you at this time. But the path is open. Meaning, if I wanted to pursue charges, everything was ready. But I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I forwarded everything to Thomas and went to bed without checking my phone again. Let her sit in that silence. Let her wonder which version of me she was about to meet in court. The next morning, my phone rang at 9:13 a.m. Kendra. I didn't answer. She called again. And again. Then came the text. "What the hell did you do?" Still, I said nothing. Let the panic rise. She had underestimated me so completely that it didn't even occur to her I might have known before she hit send. And now, everything she touched was turning into evidence. Thomas called just after 11. He had news. "She's replaced Lawrence. New attorney, Philip Barnes." I exhaled. Barnes was known. Expensive, aggressive, a scorched earth divorce litigator. He's requested an emergency hearing to contest the financial misconduct claim. Based on what? Says his client has documented evidence. All financial activity was discussed and mutually agreed upon. I didn't laugh, but I wanted to. She wants to play that game? Apparently. When's the hearing? Monday morning. 3 days. That made me pause. Monday had been the day she said her settlement papers would be ready. Now she wanted a courtroom. Let her try. That afternoon, I had one more stop to make. Frank, our neighbor 2 houses over. Retired mechanic. Good man. He and his wife used to bring over banana bread after holidays. We'd loaned him our power washer more than once. "The guy who dropped Kendra off that night," I asked. "The one you mentioned. Would you recognize him again?" Frank nodded. Tall guy. Beard. Gray Tesla. Seemed comfortable. I showed him the photo Kendra had accidentally attached to the email. Her and the man on the balcony. Frank squinted. "Yeah, that's him." "Would you be willing to give a written statement?" "Absolutely." Back home, I sat at the kitchen table, while Thomas and his assistant compiled everything into a single evidence folder. Access logs from the trust, full transaction history from Brightstone Bank lease agreement for the apartment in Scottsdale, Frank's notarized statement, screenshots of the home renovation ideas folder, showing notes on account access. The file was nearly an inch thick. Thomas delivered it by courier to Barnes's office by 5 p.m. At 6:42 p.m., he got a call back. Barnes wanted to discuss settlement options. The offer? Kendra keeps what she already took, roughly $178,000, and makes no further claims. I keep the house, the inheritance, and everything else. Thomas relayed it to me flatly. "You could push for more. We have her cornered." "I don't want more," I said. "I want it finished." "Counter?" She returns half of what she took from joint accounts and signs an NDA. "I won't pursue criminal charges for the trust access." He raised an eyebrow. "Clean. Fair. And over." That night, I searched for him. The man from the photo. It didn't take long. Jason Berkeley, yoga instructor. Based in Scottsdale, former financial advisor, left the corporate world to pursue wellness and higher meaning, according to his website. LinkedIn confirmed the rest. Investment sector veteran, now running a studio with half a dozen retreats per year. The man who held my wife on a balcony while she smiled like she'd already spent my future. But I didn't text her, didn't confront. I simply sent Thomas the screenshot and a name. Just in case, I wrote. Monday morning came cold and clean. The courthouse steps felt unfamiliar, even after 2 decades of contracts, permits, and city planning meetings. This time, I wasn't here to negotiate square footage or zoning requests. This time, it was about what belonged to me. Thomas met me inside, calm, crisp, evidence binder tucked beneath one arm like a weapon. Kendra arrived 6 minutes late, flanked by her new attorney, Philip Barnes. Tailored suit, leather briefcase. Everything about him said control. Kendra didn't look like herself. No retreat glow, no spiritual calm. Just someone who finally understood she'd bet on the wrong version of me. But they never made it into the hearing. Barnes asked for a private conference. 10 minutes later, we were all seated in a consultation room behind glass. Thomas slid the folder across the table. Barnes opened it, already frowning. Then reading. Then sweating. Trust access logs, Scottsdale lease, bank withdrawals, photos, statements, everything time-stamped and notarized. Kendra said nothing. She didn't need to. Her silence was the final confession. Barnes cleared his throat. My client is prepared to accept the counteroffer. Thomas didn't blink. As written? Yes. Full return of half the marital withdrawals. No claim to inheritance. Full NDA. No litigation. I said nothing. Let it sit. Kendra signed her name with trembling fingers. Then I signed mine. Thomas slid a separate envelope across the table. Kendra blinked. What's this? The passwords, I said. To the cloud storage, the alarm system, everything else you might need to collect what you left behind. Her eyes met mine for the first time since this started. I didn't give her anger or triumph, just clarity. It was never about the money, I said. That would have been easier. She didn't respond. Barnes gently touched her elbow, guiding her to her feet. She left without looking back. By 3 p.m., the bank transfer cleared. $89,275, half of what she'd taken. The rest, the inheritance, the house, the reputation, was untouched. The days after felt quiet in a way I didn't expect. Not empty, just steady. I packed the house myself, room by room, each box labeled not just by room, but by memory. Kendra had always insisted on open shelves, curated displays of wellness books and artisanal candles. I boxed those first, then the photos, the furniture, the art. By the end of the week, the house was just a structure again, not a home, not a battleground, just walls and floors and echoes. A month later, I sold it. Victory Drive went to a young couple, new parents, one of them a teacher. They loved the hydrangeas and the stone path I laid by hand. Good. Let something new grow there. I moved into a loft downtown, bare brick, tall windows, no porch, no ghost of what came before. Fewer things, better ones. On the first night there, I opened a letter from Rita. Inside, confirmation that the inheritance trust had been fully reaffirmed and legally protected for future designation. Personal use, business, or foundation. She'd included a note in her handwriting. Elaine would be proud. You built something that lasted. Now decide what comes next. I set the letter beside a glass of bourbon and just sat in the stillness. A week later, I found an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside, a check. $89,275. The rest of what she'd taken. There was no note, no apology, just the number. I stared at it for a long time before slipping it into a drawer. Not to cash, not yet, but just to know that she finally understood. 6 months passed, long enough for the house on Victory Drive to no longer show up in my Zillow alerts. Long enough that Kendra's name no longer showed in shared cloud folders, utilities, or junk mail. She had vanished in the way most people do after betrayal, quickly at first, then slowly in layers. Photos removed, emails left unanswered, a number deleted not out of rage, but preservation. And that check, I cashed it, not for revenge, for principle. Then deposited the full amount into a new account, one tied to the foundation Rita helped me build in my aunt's name. A scholarship fund for architecture students who'd lost a parent or guardian. First recipient, a 17-year-old girl from Macon. Her essay opened with, "I want to build places people run toward, not from." Elaine would have loved her. My life didn't reset, it reformed, tighter, cleaner, focused. The loft downtown suited me. Walking distance to the office, exposed beams overhead, silence at night. I got used to cooking for one, used to sleeping diagonally on a bed too big for guilt. I learned which days to grieve and which days to design something better. Frank, my neighbor from Victory Drive, stopped by the office one afternoon. He was downtown for a vet appointment and thought he'd check in. He told me Kendra had listed the Scottsdale apartment. "She left town?" I asked. He nodded. "Guess the retreat ended." We didn't say more. We didn't have to. Later that week, I got a letter. Not from Kendra. From him. Jason Berkeley. Typed. Neat. 3 paragraphs. The gist? He claimed he didn't know the money was stolen. Said she had told him the inheritance was part of a shared expansion plan. He said he left finance to escape that kind of greed, and that what happened with her felt familiar in the worst way. He closed the letter with this: "You built something real. She just wanted to borrow it." I'm sorry I helped her try. I didn't respond. He wasn't the one I'd made vows with. He was just the shadow of her choice. One rainy evening, I was walking along the riverfront, the same place where Kendra and I once talked about building a joint business, a wellness retreat space that I would design and she would run. I sat on a bench beneath an awning, watching cargo ships move slowly through the fog, and thought about what we almost built, and how thankful I was now that we never did. My phone buzzed. It was Jerry, my financial advisor. "Dinner still on for 7? "I'm bringing that architect I mentioned. Think you'll get along." I glanced at my watch. Plenty of time to walk home, change, and meet them. Plenty of time to choose what version of myself I wanted to be that night. Because here's what no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't destroy you. You do. If you stay angry. If you chase what's already rotting. If you let the weight of someone else's lie become your truth. But if you don't, if you rebuild, even slowly, even quietly, then betrayal becomes background noise, and you become the architect of something no one else can steal.